Hola, hola. ¿Cómo vamos, comunidad? Venga, que ya vemos la cruz en la cima, el último keynote de la tarde. Gracias por estar aquí hasta el final. No os va a decepcionar. Dejadme, por favor, que haga la introducción en inglés o en spanglish, porque he's from Toronto, Canada. He's a mentor. He's the mind behind the Badass Agile podcast. He has a huge, extensive expertise in coaching teams and professionals, and he inspired countless professionals as us to think and rethink leadership, and how to work, how we work, and how we lead and deliver value.
So, I'm not so ordinary, but I'm going to introduce you one of my best friend in Agile world since pandemic. When we were in pandemic, I was alone and so sad. And he don't know, but the idea of Agile sin filtros, Agile without filters, is why I start to hear him, and he inspired me. So for me, it's a huge pleasure to introduce you, a man who think out of the box. Thank you for being here from Canada for a few days. He is Chris William. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hello, everybody. How are you? Good. This is the last one of the day, right? The last one of the conference. So hopefully everyone's got a little bit of energy left in them. That music certainly didn't help. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to bore you with any slides, and I'm not going to try to teach you anything, but I am going to try to inspire you if I may. And I'll start with this. If you were to walk through a cemetery, which again, I don't mean to put it down on your Friday, but if you were to walk through a cemetery and look for all of the headstones that say Scrum Master or Agile Coach on them, you'd struggle. That's because you're not going to be remembered for your job title. You're going to be remembered for the impact that you make. Now, I train a lot of Agile people, so I have a bit of authority to say there's one thing I've noticed that they all have in common is that they all are people of impact. Very few Agile people say, I'm in it for the pay, or I'm in it for the pension, or I'm in it for the fame, or I'm in it for anything else. A lot of us came up through the boiler room, coding in the basement somewhere in a bank, somewhere in a city downtown, and we got interested in this Agile thing because of what it was going to allow us to do for the people that we serve. And that's important because I want to talk to you about stoking your passion. That's the topic of today's show or today's chat. And I'll start by saying that we're all creators. The things that you do as Agile people of impact make ripples. When I was a kid, I used to love being on the water, especially when you get out and it's a little deeper and the water's dark and you throw a pebble into the water and you can watch the ripples kind of bulge up and start to spread out. And eventually they dissipate into nothing, but they're not actually gone. Everything that we do has an impact on the people that we serve. And so, in a time such as the one that we live in, where we have a new US president, for example, who is likely to polarize people, but also policies are likely to change the way that you do business with America, for example. It's something I talk to my clients quite a bit about, is how is this going to impact our ability to do what we do and to do it profitably. So there's going to be some political upset, but not to mention, I don't know if you've noticed this, people are getting a little less patient, a little less kind, a little more rude, and certainly a lot more divisive. And in fact, if you go on LinkedIn and you just talk about Agile in general, you'll notice that the conversation has got into a real us versus them debate about right Agile versus wrong Agile. But again, this is not the stuff that they're going to write on your headstone. So if I could challenge you to say 1 year from now, if we were to meet each other at this very same conference at the very same time of year, what could be different? And what I want to suggest to you is that the value that you bring is not in your deep knowledge of Agile or the frameworks or any other technical thing, but in 2024 and 2025, you have an opportunity to make some of that impact that we so dearly love to make. And to me, that's the joy of what we do. When we get to touch people and we know that across the world or across the hall, that people and their lives have been made better by the things that we teach them, you'll realize that there's nothing in Agile that has to be overthought or overcomplicated. Knowledge is not really the most valuable thing that we bring. What I mean by that is you can study gravity, for example, all day long. You can know everything there is to know about gravity. You can have formula to describe and predict its behavior. All those things could be true, but all that knowledge can't help you control gravity. You can't shut it on or off anytime you want. If you're falling out of a window, your knowledge of agility is not going to help you. Sorry, your knowledge of the physics of gravity is probably not going to help you. And so what does matter more is what we inspire great people to do, the kind of change that we're capable of making, the kind of impact that we're able to have. I'm going to tell you a story real quick, and then I'm going to get into the how, by the way, but I don't want you to focus too much on the how. I think we spent the last 2 days talking a lot about the how. Where I want to get you to is inspired to the what and the why of what we really do. I'll tell you a story about Rocky Raspberry and a benevolent bully named Clive. I used to be a boxing instructor, and there's two kinds of boxing students. There's the one kid that comes in and they say, show me the punch, the one punch that you can throw that will knock somebody out and end the fight. Those people won't ever do the work that's required to really understand and master the art of the sport. And then there are young people like Rocky Raspberry who are being bullied brutally at school. I'm talking about an 11-year-old girl who was subjected to so much physical and psychological abuse at the hands of her peers. For what reason, I'll never understand where that kind of cruelty comes from. And they show up usually because their parents are on their last move. They don't know what else to do to help their child. If you're a parent or you've ever been a kid, maybe you know what it feels like to have that kind of despair, to feel that kind of hurt, like you're never going to fit in, you're never going to belong. And you don't really understand what you did wrong, but to see your child lose hope, to feel that kind of fear, to not want to go to school, to come home every day with scrapes and bruises and tears. It's an awful feeling. So those are the other kind of kid that come into a boxing gym and they want to learn how to protect themselves. So we started with Rocky Raspberry, and I got to tell you, Rocky Raspberry is the name that my boxing instructor gave to this kid. And I think if you're already being bullied, Rocky Raspberry is a terrible name to give to a kid, partly because Raspberry was referring to the fact that she had red hair. So I never understood why they chose that nickname. And I chose to tell you today because I could be in love with you. I forgot the kid's real name. But I remembered it later. It was Tamara. So Rocky Raspberry is the name that we gave her because my boxing instructor always felt like, a kid could use a nickname. So anyway, the point is, she came in and she learned all the fundamentals, how to throw a punch, how to dodge a punch, how to parry, and how to move her feet, and how to stay in range long enough to throw a punch and then to get out of harm's way. She was learning all the good stuff, but again, this is a child who had been severely bullied, and so the one thing she didn't really want to do is spar. Tell me if this sounds familiar from your Agile practice. If you're not willing to do, if you're not willing to risk, if you're not willing to engage, if you're not willing to try, and what's the big F word we always use in English? It's fail. If you're not willing to fail, we're probably not going to grow. So she was a little bit timid, so I grabbed one of these little martial arts things. It's like a pad with two handles on it. It's very thick. And I said, this is Clive. This is your bully. This is your opponent. And for now, if you're not comfortable throwing real punches and You don't ever want to get hit back. Let's use Clive as a way to learn how to throw punches at a moving target, a small target, etc. And so she loved that. So here's a kid who was really, really struggling with her happiness and her self-esteem. All of a sudden, she's giggling and she's laughing and we're having a good time. And I'm sitting there just holding Clive back and forth, and she's punching this thing like it's her real opponent. And she's learning, but it's like, you know, Tamara, sooner or later, Clive's gonna have to punch back. If you wanna be prepared for what happens in the schoolyard when bullies approach you, we're gonna have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And she wasn't too cool with that. And then one day, the inevitable happens. If you've ever studied or tried boxing or any martial art, you know what it's like to what they call walk into a punch, which is the first time you and your opponent both have an idea at the same time that you're gonna throw a punch, and you walk into their punch, making it worse. It's humiliating, it's terrifying if you've never been punched before. So that happened, and she hit the ground, and her parents were at every single lesson that we ever did together. She got up and she ran to her parents in tears. And I thought, uh-oh, she may not get back up. If this scares her so badly that she's gonna run to her parents, and that was the end of the lesson. They went home and they understood, they knew it was an accident, or they knew that it's just bound to happen. It's part of learning how to spar. And I wasn't sure if she'd ever come back. She did. And she got better. Now, I don't know where she found that kind of courage. I really don't. Because at 11 years old, under the same conditions, I probably would have quit too. I always said, this is too hard, this is too scary. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to learn to live with it. I'll figure something out. I'll go to a different school. We'll move to another town. But to her credit, she got up and she went again. And to my knowledge, I wasn't there when it happened, but there was a day when she stepped up to those bullies and they tried to push her and she hit back. Not that I ever recommend violence amongst children, but you have to admit it was kind of a pride moment for me and for us, because after that moment, they never bothered her again. The point is, you have to go through something and find your quit moment before you can become who you were meant to be. And all of us were meant to be something. So again, my challenge to you is, can we do the thing that we're not 100% sure we're capable of? Can we do the thing that scares us? And the reason I mention it is that I've been in this industry for a while, and I think it's time for some new voices. I think it's time for people to bring forward their passion. Because just talking about Agile from the strict, the same lessons and the same principles and the same teachings over and over and over may not move us forward in the way that we want to move forward. Look, we've all heard, is Agile dead? Where did all the Agile jobs go? Can I still make a good salary as an Agile coach or as a Scrum Master? We've all seen the green badge of shame on LinkedIn, where our friends, good practitioners, really, really good Agilists, are looking for work, and they're experiencing 6, 9, 12 months of no salary. And I think it's time to reclaim the greatness of who we are and what we do and why we do it, and bring something totally new to the table. So I'll tell you real quick the story of how I got here today. I was a trainer back in the early 1990s. I trained for Microsoft, and I love teaching, still do. And at some point I got into development, and after development I became an architect, and then I became, I think after that, a consulting executive. I did a lot of different jobs in the tech industry, and eventually ended up as a project manager, so on and so on and so forth. And at some point I encountered Agile. At first I didn't like it. I thought, this is stupid. What do you mean I got to give up my desk, go sit in a room with all these people? I kind of rejected it at first. Change is hard, as you know. But eventually I came to love it. And, pardon me, I started to work as a Scrum Master, work as a coach, and teach other people. However, the thing that I was born to do was to play with microphones, to play with words, to play with audio. I love that stuff. But it doesn't pay as well as being an Agile coach, so I thought, for now, I'll do this thing. But sooner or later, it occurred to me that I had something else to contribute. I had ripples that I wanted to make. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me how I could do it. Love being an Agile coach, helped a lot of people, made a lot of great friends, did a lot of really exciting work, but it didn't fill me up here. And so for everybody who wants to make a difference, who wants to do something cool, something new, a moment of courage is required. Like Rocky Raspberry, we all have to, at some point, swallow it and make a decision. Are we going to lay down or are we going to stand up and do something? Are we going to make a contribution? Are we going to make impact? Are we going to build something new, something that no one's ever built before? Because that's scary. That's terrifying. The thought of putting your idea out there and not knowing, how will this be received? What if people think my idea is a terrible idea? What if they laugh at me? What if they go, boo, terrible idea? You never know until you do it. But if we don't do it, if we don't take those risks, nothing good will ever happen. So one day I was sitting there watching my kid play hockey, and he was 7 or 8 at the time. And I don't know if you know anything about hockey, but at the 7 or 8-year-old level, it's pretty awful. So I would bring a notepad with me and just sketch out ideas. Where could this go? What is it I really want people to know? What do I want to show them? What do I want to help them with? And I came up with the idea that I wanted to create heroes, just like I did with Rocky Raspberry. In fact, she was so proud of what she did, she actually had a patch made for her jean jacket that says Rocky Raspberry on it. And to this day, as far as I know, she probably still wears it. The point is, I wanted people to feel what she felt. But I didn't really want to teach boxing for a living, so I decided, what if I take my love for microphones and my love for words and my love for Agile, and I bring them all together and try to talk about things that nobody else is talking about, the things that I know work because I've done them. And for me and the people that I serve, I think they work better. What if I made that show? And I'm not going to bring people on to interview because nobody's really talking about the same stuff that I'm talking about, so there was nobody to interview. I'm just going to make a show called Badass Agile. I'm going to put it out there. And did they listen? Yeah, they did. Did some people tell me you have to stop saying the things that you say? Yes, they do. But I also have people reach out from around the world to say, I like what you're talking about. And I used it, and I believe the same things that you believe. And when I do the things that you talk about, they work. They work for me anyway. You know, I think in 2024, we can learn more about Agile from Seth Godin than we can from Jeff Sutherland. Specifically, Seth would tell you that it's important to make what you make for people like us. I believe that the most important Agile principle is number 7, simplicity. But how often do we really do simple things in Agile if you think about it? Do we tend to overcomplicate stuff? I think sometimes we do. I don't think there's a neuroscience to Agile. I don't think there's a science to agility. I think it's just like gravity. You can study it all day long. You can theorize it about it all you want, but it doesn't help you master it. You master it by doing it. And by doing it, we don't have to have rules. We don't have to have right Agile or wrong Agile. Maybe there is no such thing. What I do now is I no longer teach Scrum or Agile from a fundamental team's perspective. I teach Agile entrepreneurs how to take whatever it is they make. Maybe you have a course in you. Maybe you have a book or an offering. Maybe you have a podcast that you want to make. Maybe you have a product or service that you want to build. Maybe you want to start your own consulting agency. How do we take that and do the things that we're never taught to do in Scrum Master School, like brand yourself, market your product, sell your product? We're never taught how to do those things. So we don't know how to gain traction in the industry. And again, we all have that moment where it's like, maybe I should quit. Nobody's really buying this. 3 people went to my last course. This isn't working. So because I learned it the hard way, I like teaching people how to make their businesses successful. That's inspiring to me. That's interesting to me. So that's what I do now. I help businesses, big organizations, not just do Agile. I help them use Agile thinking to become more innovative, more creative, more connected with their customers. There's demand for that right now. I don't do these things because I think, well, this would be a good idea, maybe I'll try it. I do these things because people knock on my door and say, Chris, can you teach us how to do this? So the funny thing about doing stuff that you're passionate about is that it becomes so much easier. There's a saying by Lao Tzu that the master or the sage does nothing, and yet nothing remains undone. How is that possible? How is it possible to do nothing and have nothing remain undone. It's because when we do the simplest thing, when we balance our efforts with passion, the thing that we would do even if we weren't getting paid to do it, with trying to make something, trying to make a product or a service that people will buy. If you're doing the thing that you love, the getting punched in the face doesn't hurt as much because you love it. This speaks to you. This activates your soul in some meaningful way. And it makes the challenges much easier to bear. And it makes your quit moment happen much, much, much later. And you enjoy what you do because of the people that you serve and how it feels to help them get where they're trying to go. We talked about earlier, my vision statement is to create heroes. Let's think about a couple of heroes for a quick moment. Harry Potter. What's Harry Potter about? You might say Harry Potter's about a kid who wants to become a magician, so he goes to school to become a magician. Sort of. The thing is, that story no one will buy because nobody in this room, or very few anyway, can relate to it because no one is actually going to go and study to be a magician. What Harry Potter is really about, and this is my English degree paying for itself, by the way, is Harry Potter was a kid who lost the only two people in his world that appreciated and supported his light, his parents. Every kid out there, including the kid that you used to be, can relate to the idea of losing your parents. It's horrifying. It'd be an awful tragedy. There's nothing worse than losing the only people who love you unconditionally in this world. And the people to whom his care was entrusted are so afraid of his light and so jealous of his light because they can see it. They can see his specialness that they literally try to keep him under the stairs so that nobody else can see it. But then, just at the moment where all hope is lost, where even Harry himself starts to question, am I worthy? Am I valuable? Am I lovable? Am I special? Here comes the undeniable invitation to go study at Hogwarts, and you can rip it up, you can burn it, you can throw it out, you can do whatever you want. It keeps coming back until eventually the guy with the beard, I forget his name. Say again? Hagrid, thank you. Hagrid shows up and says, dude, why are you not answering my text? Let's go. Hogwarts awaits. And so he goes. And just like Rocky Raspberry, there's that moment where the hero finds a coach, someone who says, it's okay. You can trust me. I won't let you fail. I won't let you get hurt. But that invitation was unstoppable. It was unquestionable. It was going to happen, whether his new parents, whatever you call them, his guardians liked it or not. That's what Harry Potter's about, because that story almost everyone could relate to. What would it be like to lose the only people in the world who truly supported you unconditionally? That's what I mean when we talk about creating heroes. Same thing, by the way, with Star Wars. A lot of people say Star Wars is about Luke who, leaves the planet and becomes a leader in the Rebel Alliance and blows up the Death Star. It's actually not. The interesting story behind Star Wars is that if you notice in the first third or half of the movie, Luke's a little bit of a baby. And for the longest time, he and everybody else questions whether or not he has the stuff to step up and become a Jedi. Because in the beginning, he does not. He's like, oh, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight? Remember that? That was on purpose. And what does it take for Luke to become the person he's supposed to be? A strong woman. Great story. But for every hero, there's the moment where you have to go into the abyss with or without your mentor, your protector with you. Remember, Ben Kenobi dies before Luke gets to become who he's supposed to become. So when we talk about creating heroes, there's that moment, that leap of faith where courage is required. So my challenge to you one more time is in the next year, could you go from being an attendee to a presenter? Could you bring a new idea to the table that's not just an extension or an amplification of what's already been talked about, but a totally new way to apply Agile to the future of work? Because we need it, don't you think? Don't you think that human resources, that marketing, that sales, learning and development, all these people could use our help? How do we get things to market more simply, more beautifully, more elegantly? How can we put things out in front of our customers who we trust to test them and say, I like that, I'll buy that? How could we do that better? A lot of times we think that we do our job well, that the measure of our worth is how agile we are, and it isn't. Our customers count on us to help them deliver things more reliably, more quickly, more effectively, with more certainty and confidence and courage. And yet we were raised in that boiler room where, quite frankly, we probably didn't want to talk to a lot of people, did we? One day someone came down from the upstairs in their three-piece suit, knocked on the door and said, "You, nerd, you know a lot about this agile thing. Come upstairs and tell us all about it." And all of a sudden we realized we don't understand their world and they don't understand ours. But the time has come to take this someplace cool. It's been 25 years or more. We could be doing so much more with agility. Agile for entrepreneurs, agile for, name an industry, name a vertical. It doesn't matter. You could be using agile for creating artwork, creating music. Look at all the ideas around artificial intelligence that you've heard about just in this conference alone. There's so many opportunities for us to help other people do what we do so that they can do it better. Now, I run a program called The Forge. Out of Badass Agile grew a number of people who said, the stuff that you teach, you should make a course out of it. So I said, okay, and I did. And I built a year-long course that's all about how to become a leader of influence, impact, confidence, and courage. And there are 4 pillars to that. I want to share with you those 4 pillars today. What's required for you to stoke your passion and say, Chris, like you were interested in microphones and audio and music and agile, and you put it together to make something that had never been created before, to fill a space and just see, does this serve? Does this help? Does it work? I want to do something too. I'm passionate about cars. I'm passionate about fashion. I'm passionate about money. I'm passionate about real estate. I'm passionate about weather. I'm passionate about art. I don't care what you're passionate about, but I do want you to find that passion and see if there's a way that you can bring more of that into the agile work that you do. When you hear that, you might be like my friend Rocky Raspberry. You might say, ouch, this hurts and is scary. This has never been done before, so I don't know if it'll work. And I don't want to fall on my face, and I don't want to feel pain, and I don't want to feel shame. And yet, I don't really have a choice. If I want the current state to stop, I have to do differently. I have to have that moment of courage so that I can have different. And so, a lot of people don't ever jump up and do the thing that they were born to do. So what's required to step into the abyss, to be the Luke Skywalker, to be the Harry Potter, and to go into a place where the paycheck is guaranteed? Neither is acceptance. You could start a blog tomorrow, a podcast, a YouTube channel, a whatever, and you have no guarantee that people will listen, that people will like you, that people will approve of you. And worse, this is the worst part, is that the people who place you in companies, find you contracts, find you gigs, the people who pay for agile services, banks, insurance companies, they're the biggest consumers of agile. They may not get you. They may look at you and go, what? Dude, we just want our dashboard. Can you give us a dashboard? Red, yellow, green. Come on, it can't be that hard. But now you've seen something different. You've received the invitation to Hogwarts. You've realized that you can't live on this desert planet anymore and that your destiny is bigger. There's something that you can offer, somebody that you want to serve. But we can't be sure that anyone's going to pay you for it, that anyone's going to love you for it. But I got to tell you, it doesn't matter. What matters is that impact that you love to make. Remember this, agile people are people of impact. They want to do things that help people. Me personally, I don't care if I help one person. It's worth it. But you might be sitting there saying, I have lots of great ideas, lots of different things I'd like to try, lots of different people I'd love to teach about what I do. I'd actually like to shed the term agile and become something different, but using the agile principles that I know and love. Agile's super elegant. It works really, 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 really well. if you stay faithful to those principles. What's happening now, though, is that Agile's gotten such a bad rap that we almost don't want to use the word anymore. So I know people who are Agile coaches who'd rather just call themselves self-improvement coaches, continuous learning coaches, something just to shake off the Agile label. But the thing is, are we going to be able to find work? Can we feed our families? Can we sustain the lifestyle that we're used to? That's a good question. So I'll tell you what's required to step into the void and do things that have never done before, to create ripples. Because the interesting thing is that once you've created something, you can't undo it. You can't unhear it. It's there for people to react to. And if it's a stupid idea, trust me, you'll know. I tried to start a podcast that would help executives be more courageous, be more humane. I wanted to create a place where executives could go and learn about what do people feel on the ground about working for your company, and how do you support and help those people. And I went to a bunch of executives and said, here's a podcast, would you have a listen to it and tell me, would you change anything? Would you listen to this? Assuming it was free or whatever. And a couple of them came back and said, Chris, it's nice, but I wouldn't have time for this. I've already got 20 podcasts I'm supposed to listen to and 5 more that I want to listen to. I can't see myself squeezing in one more. Okay, it stung for a minute, but after that, I knew I'm not going to invest any more time in this because it won't fly. Great. Here are the 4 things that I teach in the Forge. If you're interested in what I'm saying here, that it's time for you to take the thing that you're passionate about and intersect it with your love for agility, your ability to make impact for the people that you serve. Thing number 1 that you got to have is vision. Vision's like a GPS. If you don't punch coordinates into your GPS, it won't take you anywhere. It won't tell you where to go. It won't guide you navigationally. It won't tell you, here's how you avoid the construction, because you haven't told it where you're going. All it can do is tell you where you are. But the minute you punch coordinates and say, I am going here, things change. Now, we have some information that's useful. Go this way. And 100 meters, turn left. Police reported ahead. And that's useful information. Having a vision is something that if you were to ask most people, what's your vision statement? They'd say, I don't have one. Which means that most people are going through life not 100% sure where they're going. Now, you're like a GPS machine. You have this powerful computer in your head that tells you where to turn, where not to turn. This could be trouble. Maybe go a different way. But if you never punch coordinates into it, all it can do is take you exactly where you already are. So the first thing that you need to have is the courage to declare a vision. My vision statement goes like this: to create massive art and experience that connects and ignites people to a life of distinction, simplicity, and strength. To create heroes. That covers my podcast. That covers when I used to be a boxing coach. That covers my agile practice. That covers my entrepreneurial practices. It covers everything I do. That's where I'm going. I want to create meaningful things, memorable things that move people, that help them become the hero that they were meant to be. That's fun for me. And remember, I told you before, worry about the what and the why. The how will come later. If you can't trust that, you'll never create a compelling vision statement, because you'll be editing it always thinking, is this possible? Is this doable? Could this work? Will I get paid for this? Will my friends leave me? They might. A lot of people won't understand where you're going. But I feel like when you think about people like Elon Musk or Bill Gates or whoever you happen to admire for their innovation and what they created, the dent that they made in the world, didn't they all go through that? Didn't they all suffer scorn and rejection and disapproval and scrutiny and ridicule? Of course they did. That's where the courage comes in, the courage to say, I am going here. If you want to know what your vision statement could be, it can be a hard question. A lot of people say in the Forge, which is my year-long program, they say, Chris, I'm not a visionary person. I don't really know what to do here. And the answer is easy. You could say, for example, what was I always good at? What are the things that I was really good at in school that people always told me I was awesome at, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? That might help. But I once heard a saying, and I love it, I wish I'd written it. You are most eminently qualified to help the person that you used to be. Think about that. Rocky Raspberry's probably 20 years old now. She's not an 11-year-old kid anymore. And somewhere, someday, the experience that she had, the transformation, the change that she went through, going from bullied to empowered, is going to define how she raises her kids, what she does for a living, and how she contributes to the world. You're most eminently qualified to help the person that you used to be. So who did you used to be? Think about that, and you'll probably start locking into your vision. The other easy way to come up with vision is to answer the following 3 questions. Who do you serve? How do you serve them? Why do you care? So who do you want to help? Will help everybody? That's a little broad. I think you should try to help a very specific group of people. I want to help people who are often agile coaches, but really people who want to be leaders, people who want to feel fulfilled in their work, be proud of what they do. I help them find the courage, the confidence, and the certainty to do that, but to do it with simplicity and strength and certainty. Who do you serve? How do you serve them? Why do you care? If you can focus on those things, you're very close to finding a vision statement. The second thing that we do in the Forge is talk about focus and disciplined work. I'll put it to you as simply as I can. From my work being a writer, like I have this little thing. I love writing speeches for executives. I love writing marketing copy. I get a huge bang out of it. And the one thing you have to learn as a writer is that you have to get the terrible, awful, uncomfortable first draft out as fast as you can. Beginning to end. You'll be missing chunks, chapters, whole characters won't exist. That's okay. Get the first dirty, nasty, gross, emotional, flawed draft out as quickly as possible, and then you'll edit later. But if you write that first page and you get stuck and you say, this isn't good enough, this isn't working, it's not happening, you will never finish it, and you'll start saying things like, I guess I'm not a writer. I guess I'm not a boxer. I guess I'm not a podcaster. I guess I'm not a YouTuber. Whatever. You'll quit on yourself long before anyone else will. So that's number 2, disciplined and focused work. Simple way to remember that is get the nasty first iteration out quickly, beginning to end. The third thing is be ready to meet your quit moment. Like Rocky Raspberry, you're going to get knocked down. It's going to suck. It's going to feel way scarier than you think. And it's going to put you face to face with your greatest fears. And it's going to make you say, I think I should quit. This isn't for me. I'm not good enough and I'll never be good enough. But in the Forge, we learned that the minute you meet that quit moment, that's a blessing because it allows you to say, what is it that I fear that maybe this person wouldn't and this person wouldn't, but what uniquely for me is likely to keep me from moving forward? Because the universe won't do anything to stop you from stopping yourself. If you say, I quit, nobody's going to go, no, please don't quit. It'll let you give up on your dreams. But if you have the self-awareness where you can understand that my quit moment is unique to me, it comes from my history, it comes from my fears, it's a lifetime of training, of being told what to do by a society, by parents, by educators, by employers, by peers. If you can learn to face it and say, well, I have a choice. Either I let this stop me, or I find in this moment the courage to proceed anyway. You will have learned something very important. What is your quit moment? And you'll have learned that it's designed specifically for you. No two people have the same kind of triggers that make them quit. Once you know what yours are, you can spot them much quicker. And when you can spot them much quicker, you have a much better chance at conquering them. The last thing you need to know how to do is to keep getting better. To continue on a mastery path, becoming more and more aware, more and more able to respond to challenges, able to respond to criticism. But most importantly, in Agile, we call this inspect and adapt. The ability to continually get better at what you do, be comfortable with the fact that it won't be perfect when you first start, but to constantly seek improvement and refinement and realize that you will never, ever, ever get there. Those 4 things are required If you want to become your own hero and to take something that you really believe in, that you're really passionate about, maybe it's something you see in your everyday work, maybe it's something that you've always wanted to try, maybe it's agile for snowboarders, I don't care. The point is, if you have an idea, it's good. It's good because it excites you. And trust me, if you're wrong, the world will show you. This isn't ready yet. Now, when I talk about this stuff, it's not uncommon for people to say, that guy's weird. We don't talk about this stuff around the house normally. What's he talking about? This won't reach everyone the same way at the same time. What I know from experience is that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. This may not be for you ever, and that's okay. There's no judgment. But. If you wake up every day and say, there could be something more, there's something missing, there's something I'd love to do, and I haven't done it yet, then maybe this will inspire you to try. To start with, who do I serve? How do I serve them? Why do I care? To get that first iteration out, the first blog page, the first rough draft of your book, your first podcast episode, your first YouTube video, your first course, who cares? Get it out there, make it awful. Let it be awful and imperfect, but let it be done. Then to know where your quit moment is, to figure out what's likely to stop me. Trust me, I get up to this day some mornings and go, what have I done? Because I don't have anyone who pays me a paycheck anymore. Nobody brings me into the office and, signs me up with benefits. If I don't hunt, I don't eat. So it's scary. And sometimes you get up and say, oh, I shouldn't have done this. But when you see the impact that you get to make, when you see the ripples that you create, it changes everything. It's a really different kind of life. And my friends, if that's something that you want, something that you've thought about, I challenge you to do it this year. Because next year, you're like, maybe I'll wait. Maybe not yet. Maybe I'll finish that degree first. I got a couple of safe certifications I got to get, so let's do that first. And then I'll live my dream. But eventually, we all run out of time. Now remember, they're not going to write anything about Scrum Master on your headstone. There was a movie, maybe you've seen it, called Dead Poet Society. Remember that? And in it, Robin Williams quotes Walt Whitman. And in answer to the question, why bother? Why do this stuff? Why create? Why paint? Why make ripples? And Whitman's answer was, because you're here. Because you're alive. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. And then he asks, what will your verse be? And that's my question to you. And it's my question because I got here in Spain today. I'm 53 years old. I have never traveled to Europe in my life. This is my first time. And how did I get here? Because one person heard the ripple that I made and said, this is for me. And we'd love for you to come here and meet my friends and talk to our people. And I didn't do anything. I didn't pay to advertise. I'm talking about Alessandra now. I didn't pay to advertise. I didn't call her 100 times and say, please, 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 can you bring me to your conference? I made my ripple, and the message was received. Simple as that. The master does nothing, and yet nothing remains undone. It was easy. I was doing what I was going to do anyway. I would have done it for free. But all of the things that have happened for me in the past 5-7 years, from the Forge to the new Forge Genesis, to the courses that I make on storytelling, to the people that I've met, the things that I've been able to do, to being here with you now in your beautiful country, 10 hours apart by plane, is a miracle. I can't tell you how fulfilling it's been to do this thing and to become the person I always wished I could be. And it's thanks to you, my friend. It's thanks to all of you, my friends. And so if it works for me, my boxing instructor used to say, if I can do it, you can do it, because I'm an idiot. I always thought that was pretty funny. But it's true. If I can do this, I have no special skills. All I was willing to do is to take the hits, give it a try, to fail miserably sometimes, but to do the thing that's so uniquely me that I never work, my friends. This is an effort. This is a privilege. This is a joy. And it's my wish for all of you too. So with that, I'm going to thank you for your kind attention. I hope you loved the conference. I want to give a special round of applause to everybody who put this together, from the organizers to the people at the sound desk, the people who worked the lights, the people who vacuumed all of these rugs, who brought you our food. Please give a huge round of applause for those folks. I'm at badassagile.com, and if I can be of service to you or your companies, find me on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Chris.
Chris.
A big applause for Chris. Thank you.